But all right, we in this thing, gang, it's potty training and all that good stuff. You are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I am your host, Kyng Ralph here at the homie, and my correspondent. Got to use a big word, correspondent. Couldn't tell you how to spell it though. But my boy Tar, he in the building. What's happening, Brody?
Man, not much. Before we get started, I know we about to talk about football. Rest in peace to Chris Mortensen, man.
Oh no, I didn't
Yeah,
know
bro, we lost Chris
that.
Mortensen, bro. We lost him today,
Damn.
man. He was one of he's the GOAT. Him and John Clayton were two of the
Yeah,
football GOATs. So the fact that we're
yeah,
doing a football show, it wouldn't feel right without saying RIP to two of the
yeah,
guys that inspired me, you know what I'm saying, to do what we're
yeah.
doing right now. Chris Mortensen, man, tore me up.
Damn, bro, I didn't even know that. That just hit me hard.
Yeah, bro.
It's one of those things, bro. Like before we get into it, is like as we get older, it's like when you start to lose the people that were like your inspirations. It's like I couldn't wait. Like you know how like in NBA, it's like it was real if Woj says it. It's like when Chris Mortensen spoke, you knew that these was facts. You
Right.
couldn't wait to see like, I wonder if he know or like what they've been told such and such. Like even John Clayton was another one too. So dang, it just sucks to lose legends like that.
Yeah.
But if you want to do any podcasts like what you're watching, photo shoots, music videos, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. And we got a lot to get into for my YouTube subscribers. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If I end up doing Facebook or Instagram, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. The He Say, She Say channel on Facebook. Subscribe at Juke Media on YouTube, Juke Sports Show on Instagram. You can follow me at KYNGRALPH on all platforms. Add an underscore for Twitter or X. And we got the combine breakdown. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's one of those things as we progress in a society, especially with player empowerment specifically. It's like it sucks to not see your favorite college player participate in these drills, but at the same time, you got to understand the business of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Specifically, segueing into the quarterbacks. The top three quarterbacks on a lot of people's draft boards did not participate. Caleb Williams specifically did he talked to the media, but he didn't do medical. He didn't work out. Jaden and Drake didn't work out. I haven't seen people. I've seen Jaden, but I haven't seen Drake May speak to anybody. Not to say that he has or hasn't. Have you seen
Yeah,
her?
he talked to Allie LaForce. I think her name is Allie LaForce. I don't know what her name
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think Allie LaForce is the NBA woman,
yeah. That is
but yeah, he did talk to the
WNBA.
main girl from the NFL Network, and he spoke, and he basically said he was just looking forward to basically working out at his pro day or whatever.
Yeah,
And a lot of the reasons for the quarterbacks not wanting to do it is because the familiarity of working with their own wide receivers and things of that nature, and what it would mean for Jaden Daniels mentioned that he wanted to give some of his teammates shine of what it
yeah,
would mean for them to work with him specifically because they know teams are going to be there to see him. So that means that they're going to see other parts of his team and stuff like that. And basically, Drake Mason basically the same thing, right? He wanted to work with, Dontez Walker and stuff like that. Because throwing to wide receivers you never thrown to is kind of hard with the timing and things of that nature. Like Michael Penix had
bro. I was just gonna say that. I
go
was
ahead.
like, bro, I don't know if you seen that bullshit, but dog, Buddy Alligator armed with no defenders out here.
Right. Right. And it's like Michael Penix at least had Roma Dunze. Like he could throw it to him. He could throw it to Jalen
Yeah,
McMillan. He could throw it to the tight end Polk. So he was
yeah,
able to throw it to like some of his guys that were out there where like Drake May and a lot of your wide receivers, like you're gonna throw to the guys that you feel comfortable with. So
yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And that's what Drake May kind of reiterated. So he did speak.
Yeah, I think that that's good. I think that that's smart. I think it's a way to control your environment to a certain degree. So I don't have a problem with that. I'm like I said, I understand the business side of it, but sometimes you wish your guy go out there and compete.
Right.
But who were? I know it's the combine. We out there in t-shirt and shorts, but who impressed you, or who's someone that you thought did what you thought they would?
Joe Milton actually really, really impressed me.
I was curious.
He was a guy like he's built like 6'5", 235, 240,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With a lot of these times with these big quarterbacks, you kind of think of Terrell Pryor, you're like, we're gonna move him to wide receiver, right? We're gonna move him to tight end because he's so big. The dude has a cannon though. Like he's one of those players that you feel like I can work with, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I wasn't really too high on him because his accuracy is left to be desired. He's not a very accurate guy. He throws the ball extremely, extremely hard, right? Like he's breaking 3 or 4 of your fingers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those things to where it's like you remember Tyree Jackson from Buffalo, kind of that, where Steve Smith had to get out of line and be like, "Yo, bro, you messing people money out here with how hard he's going to damn ball, right?" You remember that?
Yeah.
It's one of them, bro, and it's like, but he had a feathery soft touch. Like he was throwing the ball and it was hitting the ceiling. Like he was throwing rocket moon balls and they were perfect. And he was being very like waiting and letting the receiver go. And he was and it was just in the bucket, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know I didn't know he had that because a lot of times with these college quarterbacks, it's really hard to tell. And we're gonna get into this list and break this down, but it's really hard to tell, is it them or is it the system that they're in?
Oh God.
Right. And so we got that with Anthony Richardson last year. Like, is it him? Was he bad, or was it just the system of what he plays in that made him look the way that he looked, right? Because you kind of look at Joe Milton, he came from Michigan, and Harbaugh doesn't throw the ball a lot.
Nope.
So he wasn't able to really show that off. And then when you go to Tennessee, he didn't start because of Hendon Hooker. And then when he came in, he did great things. But then last year, his wide receivers, he didn't have the same wide receivers. He didn't have Cedric Tillman. He didn't have Jalen Hyatt. So, of course, if you don't have your best wide receivers, you're going to struggle, right? So, and then he didn't have Darnell Wright, neither the right tackle. So, of course, you're going to struggle, right? So, seeing what I saw, I'm like, okay, if you put him on a certain situation, he might be okay.
Yeah. He was somebody I definitely wanted to see what you thought about him, because I was just like, from what I've seen, I'm an Ohio State guy. So I seen him at Michigan and it just didn't look right. But then also with Harbaugh's offense, it's just not built for what he's there for. I'm here to throw the rock.
Right.
He's not like, he's a big quarterback, and a lot of times when it comes to black quarterbacks, they just automatically pin them in this run first type of mode, but that's not his game. And so I think I was curious to see what he said, because he had that boy got an arm on him. But then, and I seen it where they were comparing it to the way that the NBA drafts. And it's like, people will draft people based on potential. And it's like, all right, you 6'10", you got a 50-inch vertical, or you're a center that can take you off the dribble. All right, I can teach you how to shoot. I can teach you footwork. I can teach you things and build you up. Anthony Richardson really impressed me once he was in the league. I watched him against I think it was the Jaguars.
He played two. It was them and the Texans, so it had to be one of them.
He was balling, and then it just was toward the end of the game, he threw some picks. And it was just like, all right, I seen why you were drafted like this. Now it's just like, we got to refine these certain tools. And I think Joe Milton was one of those ones where that rocket of an arm, if you can get him to get more accurate, take a little off. In the combine, he did have a throw it touch, put it right in the breadbasket on the deep plays. So it's just like those intermediate throws. Can he take a little off where you're a little bit more accurate? You're not throwing people's hands and breaking fingers and things of that such.
Right.
And so I think he was very impressive. I was actually really impressed with Penix as well.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that Penix had that type of arm. Like, I knew that, like, he can get it there, but I didn't think that he could throw with that type of touch, although the receivers were dropping passes, but they were where it was supposed to be.
Right.
And so I think on the deep ball, I was very impressed on the deep ball. I knew that he had the accuracy and the intermediate throws. Um,
That's why,
so
like, for me,
go ahead.
right? Like, if you look at some of these ranking systems, um, he's like he's not on the ranking systems a lot of times. He's like number 5, or like some people's number 5, some people's number 6.
Yeah,
A lot of people have Bo Nix in front of him. I specifically have him number 5 in front of Bo Nix, just
yeah,
because he has that ability to throw the ball very, very accurately, right?
right,
It's like you hand deliver him the ball, right? And the one thing for him that was the positive of the combine, and I thought he had a very good combine from this matter, is medical, right?
yeah, yeah,
And they gave him a clean bill of medical health, and I think that's the reason why he's dropped. Because number one, he's had 2 ACL injuries and 2
right,
shoulder surgeries,
right,
so they don't know how durable he's going to be, and then age, right? Because he spent
yeah.
some time out because of those injuries, and they
He's
said he's
24.
clean, so they gave him a clean bill of health, right? So I think with that, he had a great combine, not only because he threw, but because of the news of, hey, it's safe to draft me because I'm healthy, right? Because a lot of the times that gets red flag. Like my boy from Nevada a couple years ago, Carson Strong, he had to
Oh yeah,
retire because they didn't draft him because of injury, because he had a bad knee. And if that type of stuff, they see that, they're gonna flag you immediately. And the
right,
fact that he didn't get flagged is a great thing. So
right, right. Yeah, he's I'm curious. Well, I mean, since at this point we've talked about it, is is he 4 or is he 5 for you?
he's 5. He just snuck in because okay. So in my ranking system, I have honorable mentions and I have rankings, right? I already mentioned Joe Milton, and I have Spencer Rattler up there as well. I really like Spencer Rattler.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
I think that Spencer Rattler, when you kind of talk about the Brock Purdy, I think that Spencer Rattler is going to be the Brock Purdy of this draft. But I wanted to put Bo Nix at 5, and I understand why you put Bo Nix at 5. But my problem with Bo Nix is that he doesn't have any characteristic that makes him special, where
mm-hmm.
Michael Penix has that throwing ability, right?
Yeah,
Bo Nix is just a playmaker. He's a great playmaker, but he doesn't do
right,
one thing well. Like you look at
right,
him, he led the NCAA in completion percentage, 77%. Now, is that him or is that the offense that he's in, right?
right.
77%. Because you've seen him at the senior day practice, he missed a lot of throws that were open and that were bad. And then again, it goes back to you not throwing guys that you're used to. But in the NFL, you're not going to be used to a lot of the guys either, because they're going to be new. So
Right.
what is it with the accuracy, right? And my NFL comparison to Bo Nix, right, was Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because Gardner Minshew is a guy, like, he's a great quarterback when he's in the game, but he doesn't do one particular thing well. He just wins games, but he's
Yeah,
still a backup. There's a reason why he's not a starter. And I
right,
kind of see that with Bo Nix, where I see Michael Penix, he throws the ball completely accurately. And that's the
yeah,
one thing that you cannot teach is the
right,
accuracy. Ball placement, back shoulder fades, throw it high, throw it there, throw it there, throw it here. So I feel like that skill set put him at number 5 for me
okay,
as in my ranking system, ahead of Bo Nix, where I've seen a lot of people have Bo Nix at 5, but that's why I put Penix there, just because he has the ability to throw the ball accurately.
okay, okay. Yeah, I was kind of curious where you was at with it. I've been sitting here this whole time. I was letting you talk, trying to let you lead the conversation because I'm still stuck between McCarthy and Bo.
I love bro. Here's the thing: I didn't like McCarthy coming in. I love McCarthy now, and I'm gonna explain to you why. Maybe this might help you. McCarthy's my 4th, and the reason why I put McCarthy on my 4th, just because he wasn't asked to throw the ball and asked to be a playmaker doesn't mean he can't be one,
True.
right? Just because he wasn't.
True.
And it's like, if you look at the Alabama game where he was asked to lead and make throws, he makes perfect. He makes good decisions. He makes smart decisions.
Yeah.
My NFL comparison to him, and it's a specific quarterback that played with Harbaugh and how Harbaugh used him. And if you go back and watch the film, it's J.J. McCarthy all day. Alex Smith. When he had Alex Smith,
Yeah.
the statistics were the same.
Right.
Alex
Right.
Smith had 32-something yards, 3,300 yards, something like that. 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. 3,200 yards for J.J. McCarthy, 19-5. It's the same, it's the same thing. And when asked to make certain plays, he made the certain plays when Alex Smith was asked. The problem with Alex Smith is he never jumped over the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you replace him with Patrick Mahomes. That's where you replace him with, Colin Kaepernick, which is completely understandable, right?
Right.
J.J. McCarthy is kind of the same thing, in my opinion. I've seen him make a lot of plays off script that were the right play, and that was the smart play, but he improvised. And I feel like his improvisational skills are a good thing. And he's the type of quarterback that I don't feel like is going to lose you a lot of games, right? And he's a winner. And he's a guy that if you run a heavy run system, for example, the Raiders, he would fit the Raiders perfectly because the Raiders want to run the football. And he's going to be able to throw the ball and not make mistakes, right? A team that like Denver, for example, I think he would fit extremely well.
He would be great for Denver.
He would be great for Denver. So I look at him and I'm like, there's a place for him in the league, and because of his winning attitude, because he's able to extend plays with his legs and make plays, and that he's not going to make a lot of mistakes, I see quarterbacks like that be successful in the league. Alex Smith was successful and had a career that was successful just like that. It's really depending upon the coaching with him.
True.
So
big facts.
I like JJ. I didn't like JJ coming into this, but I like JJ after watching him. I like JJ.
Yeah. After I went back and I watched some more tape. I watched him throw at the combine. And so that's why he has gone up on and how I've been rating him. He's probably got the most movement on my list. Because at one point I probably had him at like 7 or 8 for me. And then how he played in the college football playoff had me like, all right, he's in that same realm with Penix, Nix, and I don't know who else I would put in that after that. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. For some reason, Sam Hartman, I've been kind of feeling Sam Hartman.
I could see Sam Hartman.
But I think he's like in that tier after that. But so I actually got McCarthy at 5. For all the reasons that you said, very extremely accurate. I think he's a sneaky athlete like Alex Smith, so I think that's a really good comp. He has the experience under center, unlike a lot of quarterbacks coming out these days. And I think he stands really good in the pocket, like his pocket presence, being able to take that throw, knowing that hit is coming. So for me, that's why I got him at 5 over Nix, who I don't think Nix got that same dog in him that when you finna get smacked, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the ball out of here. And so I like McCarthy. Penix is my 4. And I got Drake May at 3.
That's my 3. Drake May is my 3rd.
Yeah, Drake May was my 3. I think going into the season, I definitely had him at 2. But the way that Jaden Daniels balled this year, honestly, I really want to say Jaden Daniels at 1.
Oh, we'll get to that with me. We're gonna get to that with me. But I got Drake May. And I'll explain Drake May. The one thing that people have been saying a lot is that they've been comparing him to Justin Herbert. And to me, my comparison is going to break down who I think of him, right? My comparison is Jared Goff. I think that when we look at him,
that's kind of tough.
He's the prototypical height weight guy, 6'4", 220. Like he's what you want in a quarterback as far as from everything on up. He's a playmaker. He can throw the ball. He has great arms and this, that, and the third. But the reason why I say Jared Goff is because Jared Goff at certain points in games tries to make plays that he has no business trying to make, which forces the ball into to a bad place and where he throws interceptions or makes mistakes. Hold on real quick.
That's facts. Yeah. Jared Goff, if he's doing some
Like
shit,
the Cowboys game, for example.
What are you doing?
The Cowboys game, right? The Cowboys game and the Christmas or Thanksgiving game, right?
Yeah.
Against Green Bay, where you had good Jared Goff, throw 2 touchdowns, leads you on a game-winning drive against Denver or Dallas, right? And then, but before that, he throws balls that he shouldn't have been trying to because he trusts his arm and he trusts his playmaking ability. It's exactly what Drake May did, and what he does, right? There's a reason why Sean McVay traded him, right? And you're going to get a lot of good from Drake May, but you're going to get a lot of bad from Drake May. The good Drake May is when he had someone, when he had a Josh Downs that was in the slot and can extend plays. Amon-Ra St. Brown, boom, boom, and that was the good. The bad Drake May is when you don't have him, and then you don't have Dontez Walker in the middle part of the year from the beginning part of the year because he was suspended for whatever reason. Right. Then when you get Dontez Walker back, his consistency goes a little bit. It's a lot better, right?
Right.
So he's very weapon dependent, and he's very. You'll get a lot of good of him, and you'll get a lot of bad of him, right? But it comes down again to coaching, and coaching him out of those bad traits, and saying like, "Hey, you can't do this, you can't do this," right? Because a lot like Jared Goff, you can win with Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff took the team to the Super Bowl. You can win with Drake May, but you just got to coach him out of those bad habits. And I feel like of those 2 quarterbacks that are left, he has more bad habits than the rest of those. So that's why I shot him to 3, right? Because you still got to coach him out of those bad habits. And so I have him at 3.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I definitely have him at 3. So I got McCarthy, Penix, May. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, say it.
I feel more comfortable with if I had to put my stock in somebody, I'm putting my stock in Jaden Daniels.
I don't think it's close. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, but like I don't know, bro. I was like, maybe I haven't gotten into my deep dive yet, where like I'm really watching film on these players. But from what I've seen about Caleb, I don't see why he's this like the next coming of God.
First and foremost, it was like last year's draft. Like C.J. Stroud was clearly the best quarterback in the draft.
Right.
We both said that. Clearly the best quarterback. It's like I think Jaden Daniels, it's clearly the best. Like, so I don't want to like jump out of order because I have Caleb Williams number 2. I think the thing about Caleb Williams is number 1, we need to stop. It's almost like the Michael Jordan theory, right? Where every player in the NBA draft is Michael Jordan. Every quarterback is Patrick Mahomes now, which is the kid's not Patrick Mahomes. Like, we've seen Caleb Williams before. It's Kyler Murray. We've seen him before. He's Kyler Murray, right? Both can make the off the back throw. He can make unscripted plays, can do all this other stuff. And the thing is the maturity, right? Like they have all the same mannerisms, right? The maturity mannerisms and things of that nature. And it's one of those things to where that's where Kyler Murray kind of pissed you off at, right? Because you've seen that from the beginning, like the entitledness of I'm gonna go play baseball if I don't have it my way, right? And you kind of have Caleb Williams kind of with the same shit, like not baseball, but he's like, I don't want to go to Chicago, or I need ownership of the team. I don't want to do my medical. I don't want to do X, Y, and Z.
Bro, when that
We've
shit came out,
seen the same thing with Kyler Murray.
I know you don't know unless you ask, though.
And it's crazy that like Kyler Murray, they both came up under Lincoln Riley, both won high. Like it's the same thing. Like the body structure, the way that they throw the football, the way that they make off-platform throws, the way that they make the unscripted plays, the way that they're deep. They're the same quarterback. And there's not Caleb and Kyler Murray is a great quarterback. I like Kyler Murray.
It's my dog.
But it's not. But I don't want to make it seem like this dude is once in a lifetime. And if you draft him, it's the biggest mistake. It's not. You could comfortably roll with Justin Fields and still be fine. Like he's not the can't miss prospect. Because people are making it seem, like if you pick Justin Fields over him, that's like a colossal mistake. No, it's not. It's really not. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's not that, right? Yeah, but I do like Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, I see why you like him. I see why people like Caleb Williams. I do, and he's still gonna be a game changer, a franchise changer. He still has all of that, right?
Yeah.
Even in saying all of this that we're saying right now, he still has all that. But the whole Patrick Mahomes and he's the once in a lifetime, he's not. He's not.
All right, so I got a question because I've really been like bombastic side eye. Do you really believe? Is it me or is it Caleb Williams don't look as tall as they list him?
I got him at least a good 6 foot.
That's what I've been saying.
I think he's a good 6'1". I think he's a good 6'1".
I was like,
what
I don't know if he's
what do they list him?
They list him at 6'1".
Yeah, he's okay. I could see 6'1", 6 foot.
Because I'm like, if Pat Mahomes is 6'2",
he's flirting with it.
He looked like he my height, bro. He a good 6 foot, bro.
He's flirting with it.
On a tall day.
He's flirting with it. He's flirting with it. But
I know it's not much off. But once I didn't realize that Jaden Daniels was as tall as he was.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. So Jaden Daniels, bro, like,
yeah,
he has everything, right?
Yeah,
I have 3 quarterback comparisons with him. 3, right? Randall Cunningham, Deshaun Watson,
yeah,
and the accuracy of Aaron Rodgers, the accuracy, the ball placement of Aaron Rodgers. He can throw the ball anywhere, right? He throws the best deep ball I have probably ever seen from a college quarterback, right? Like, if you look at the film, you watch one tape and you're in love. Florida, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think any of these prospects tape matches Florida. None of them. And it's like Caleb Williams has amazing things. Like, the thing that I like about Caleb Williams is he makes off-script plays, and he can make those like those Patrick Mahomes. This is where I can see Patrick Mahomes, and he'll throw it like there's a film against Colorado where he did that against Colorado, where he's getting blitz and he's running, and all of a sudden him making a few moves made his tight end wide open down the seam, and he just threw it. Like, those type of illusion plays he makes those all day. Caleb does, but so does Jaden Daniels, right? I think Jaden Daniels is a much more elusive runner, right? I think Jaden Daniels could run for 1,000 yards. I think he could totally throw for 4,000 yards, 5,000, even 5,000 yards, right? Because it's like you have to deal with him all 3 to 4 downs. He could kill you with his arm strength down the field, right? Where C.J. Stroud wasn't really that much of a runner last year, but he could kill you the same way C.J. Stroud killed you, and then he could kill you on the legs as well, right? And you got to pick your poison with him, right? He can make those Randall Cunningham elusive break tackle plays, but imagine if you break the tackle and do all this, then you have Aaron Rodgers' accuracy where you can throw the ball anywhere. That's scary. Yeah. That is scary. That is absolutely scary. It's like if Jaden Daniels was in a different draft class, he would have been like easily the number 1 pick. And like, in talking to the homies about this in the group chat, they asked me my opinion, like, why is it that, he's higher than the other or whatever? And I said, it's the glazing factor. They're glazing over 2 guys that were great last year, which is cool. But it was like, if you look at Jaden Daniels, he's shown flashes each and every year where it was like, you always have that what if factor. What if this quarterback goes to the SEC? He went to the SEC and lit them the hell up.
Right.
He did it in the Pac-12 and then went to the SEC and lit them up. So, I don't know. I don't know what else he has to do, but I think he's clearly above and away. He's one of the best prospects I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I definitely think that he is getting overlooked. I think the hype train is really was pushing Caleb along the way. I got the same cat. I got 1 through 3 is the same. I think our 4 and 5 was different. So I do got Jaden Daniels at 1, Caleb, Drake, Penix, McCarthy, and that's my 1 through 5.
Yeah, I had Penix 5, McCarthy 4, Drake 3, Caleb 2, and Jaden 1.
So we got the same 5. It's just that 4 and 5 we flip flop.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Um, we got. I'm. This is just the first time we talking about it. Eventually, I will have a more in depth breakdown on why I have my list the way that they are. As far as my end, mock draft two. I'm gonna try to do at least two, maybe three mock drafts before. But next up, we got running backs and tight ends. The crop wasn't as deep as some of the past years, so we're just lumping them together. We got running backs, tight ends. Um, I Someone that stood out to me, and this is weird, but maybe it's just because I watched him play against my team, and I'm excited to see, but at the same time, I feel like they're really short. And this is Blake Corum. And I think Blake got good feet, strong runner, north south runner, surprisingly good hands out the backfield. The only thing for me is like, and I was trying to have this conversation with my brother yesterday because he was watching some of the tape with me, and I was just like, when someone runs a 4.5 versus like someone that's running like a 4.38, it might not seem like a lot, but that's the difference between someone that can hit the home run and someone that's just a chain mover. And so that's the thing for me with Blake with his 40 time too. It's like it wasn't blow me away, but I can definitely see him being a good back in the NFL. It's just his size and speed, height and speed is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know.
What scares me about Blake is wear and tear because
Yeah.
Michigan ran him to the ground and
Oh
he's
God.
just coming off of a knee injury. So
Right.
you've been already running him a lot. I think the problem with this running back class is this is the ultimate running back class of like this. We haven't seen enough of them because of their offenses they were in or how they were used. Like
Right.
Jonathan Brooks, for example, is the number one running back on a lot of people's boards. And the
Yeah.
problem with Jonathan Brooks is he was the backup of one of the greatest running backs, college running backs we've ever seen. So this was his first year to be a starter, right? Because he's no longer being a backup anymore. But then you got Xavier Worthy, then you got Jartavius Sanders at the tight end, and then you got the other wide receiver. He's blanking on me, but he's in
Mitchell.
Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah.
So it's like his opportunities were a little bit less because you're throwing the ball a little bit more. But what
Right.
Jonathan Brooks showed is that he could catch the ball out of the backfield.
Right.
You got Jalen Wright, who last year again is what like we mentioned with Milton. Like the offense last year was dynamic, but then this year when you take the playmakers away, he was the only playmaker, and
Yeah.
they stacked the box knowing that he's the only playmaker, right? But the guy who honestly there's two guys that are flying under the radar and that completely caught my eye. The first guy is Louisville's Isaac Garrido. I can't say his last name, but he reminds me of Darren McFadden. He's 6'1", 220 pounds, and ran a 4.33. Fast, can catch the ball out of the backfield, extremely fast. And he's a tall, upright runner, just like Darren McFadden was.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that would be a good number 2 running back for a team that needs a number 2 running back, right? You look at any of the teams around the league that they may not want to pay the running back. So hey, like here's a guy I can plug in that's tall and big. Buffalo comes to mind like as a team that he could fit. Even the Cowboys that comes to mind as a team that could use him, right? Like we don't know if Tony Pollard is going to come back because he could play the Tony Pollard role, the tall, fast type of guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I love that for him. The other guy I mentioned was Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd reminds me a lot of what's the Eagles running back's name? He used to be on the Lions.
Swift.
DeAndre Swift. He's a 5'8". He's a little older guy. 5'8", 5'9". Can catch the ball out of the backfield again as a scat back. He'd be a serviceable number 2 back. And I think that becomes the problem with this draft class is they're all serviceable number 2 backs. And I feel like the first running back off the board will come in round 3. So that's why we kind of lumped them together is because of that, because they all fit in that profile. Like you mentioned, Blake Corum, you got Bucky Irving, Trey Benson, Audric Estime, Marshawn Lloyd, like I just mentioned, like Braylon Allen. All these guys fit that number 2 running back role. There's not that one guy that's just the number 1 clear.
Yeah. I really like Trey Benson.
I like Trey Benson too.
I do like Trey Benson. 6 foot, 220, 4.39. Yeah, he was doing his thing too.
He was doing his thing. And again, the problem with him was you got Keon Coleman, you got Johnny Walker, you got the that big tight end. What is his name?
6'7" buddy.
Yeah, Jaheim Bell. So you got Jaheim Bell. So yeah, like there was just too much. There's too many mouths to feed on some of these offenses, and the way college football is going is we're gonna spread the ball out. We're gonna chuck the ball down the field, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing for me is like it sucks. It's because I grew up loving the running back position. I hate the way that the running back position has been done through history. Another person that I like, but this is where the conversation of that 4.5 versus a 4.39. Trey Benson ran the 4.39, but Ray Davis ran the 4.5 too.
Yeah,
and like you were productive, had 280 against Florida, but it's like that's where I think that's you gonna slip because you don't got that great speed. But it's not like you have like a crazy opposing size either. So
yeah, and it's wear and tear as well, right?
Right.
Because that's where you get into the Blake Corum aspect of things, right? And I think another guy too that has gone under the radar is Frank Gore Jr.
Yeah.
And I love Frank Gore Jr. and Blake Corum in kind of the same realm. I think they're the same type of back. And I got either one of them two going to the Chargers. Like either one of those two, I feel like are perfect Chargers running backs for what I think that Harbaugh is going to be looking for. The big not fat, but big, like heftier running backs that can fit in between the tackle, a bruiser, right? Ray Davis is a bruiser, right? So he's one of that bruiser fashion and not more of the elusive kind. Like the guy that I mentioned from Louisville, and he's a kick returner to the Louisville guy that didn't even start in there, but he's a kick and punt returner. But it's these elusive qualities that I feel like they're looking for where like the Corums and all these guys are more bruiser backs to me.
And so, yeah, I'm curious to see if anywhere, because it'll be wild if we gotta wait till like the third round for a running back. That'll be
crazy. I think that's where the first running back's gonna get picked. Me personally, third round. And Matt, I forgot the dude's name from ESPN, but Matt Miller. There you go. Matt Miller said the same thing I said. He gave them all third round grades, like most of them. He said the first running back should get picked in third round. I was like, okay, that's how I felt too. Like they are all like kind of third round. Old buddy from NFL Network said probably late second, mid second part of the draft. So yeah, I think that's where they're going to go, and that's appropriate.
And so we got tight ends now. We're on the tight ends portion of this segment. Did Brock Bowers run?
No, Brock Bowers is recovering from injury.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But he won't need to. Like,
yeah, he's so far head and shoulders above.
Yeah, that's like he's like George Kittle, Sam Laporta. Like he's a unicorn. Like that's like one of the greatest college football tight ends I've ever seen. So
yeah, he's legit, bro. So legit. outside of him, who you got?
As I mentioned before, I like Jartavian Sanders from Texas. Big physical guy. I think to me the most dynamic is Jaheim Bell from Florida State. I feel like he's an H-back. He reminds me. I think he's going to end up taking that. I don't want to keep comparing people to Raiders because we're Raider fans, but Marcel Reese, how like Marcel Reese could, or maybe even like a Kyle Juszczyk, how the 49ers use Kyle Juszczyk. Like he's a threat out of the backfield because he can catch the ball. And he ran a 4.53, so he's fast, and he's He has nimble, fast feet, and he can catch the ball with soft hands. And I think he's a weapon, right? Kind of like Jonnu Smith, right? A good
Yeah.
like second option kind of tight end, right? Like
Right.
him a lot. I also like the kid from Arizona, Tanner McLachlan. I can't say his name, but Tanner McLachlan. I like him a lot as well. But there's one prospect that we haven't mentioned yet that's not on the tight end list, but I feel like he should be converted to tight end. Johnny Walker from Florida State. I think that he's 6'7", 235, and he ran a 4.53 at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
He's a tight end to me. I don't see him as a wide receiver because he can't break press. But I feel like if you put him over the middle at linebacker, he's a Darren Waller. He's a mismatch nightmare.
Yeah.
I think that whoever drafts him would have a gem at tight end. He's a mismatch nightmare. So right now, I have him as my number 2 tight end. He's not even a tight end. But if you put him at tight end, bro, like he would be crazy. Like I'd never seen a 6'7" wide receiver before. And it's like he's 7, 235, and he can high point the ball already. Like he's a mismatch nightmare. I swear, like I want somebody to put him at tight end because it's like he's a tight end.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see it because he's a bigger receiver who doesn't create great
separation.
A good amount of separation.
Yeah, he doesn't. But if you put him in the middle versus a linebacker, he's a mismatch. He's a nightmare.
I actually am. I was sitting there looking at the tight ends list, and then we got to my boy from Ohio State, and I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I never really thought about it.
Is he a linebacker? Was he a linebacker and an edge rusher?
Who? Stover?
Kate Stover.
Yeah.
Is he being converted to tight end, or has he always played tight end?
He played. I think early in his career he was on the other side of the ball, and then because I know this year he played tight end, and I want to say he was our tight end when with Stroud too. But I think he's a physical runner after catching the ball, good hands, can work on his blocking, but he has the size to be a good blocker. It's just whether or not he has it in him to be a blocker. 6'4", 250. So he has the size to be a point of attack blocker, but he's more so cutting his teeth being a chain mover. And I feel like he's made some big plays for us over the last couple years to where we needed to move the chains. He was there. So I like Kate Stover. But like we said, outside of Brock, it's going to be – I'd be surprised to see anybody shoot. They probably
I took a wide receiver to a tight end. That's
right. They probably gonna be in that running back conversation where around that range after Brock Bowers. And so next up, got a very deep receiving core.
Whew. Let me go to my receiver notes real quick.
Extremely deep. So I mean, we can go. This is definitely gonna be one where we can rank them.
Formulating a top 5 was a pain in my ass. I couldn't do it. And then it's like after seeing the combine, it's like, oh my God. Like I've never seen. I think this is the best collection of wide receivers that I've seen in a minute. And I want to compare this wide receiver draft to the it's kind of hard because I want to say like the Jalen Waddell one, because like the Jalen Waddell one was so deep because you had Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddell. Like if these are like earth-changing wide receivers.
Right.
I want to kick it off not with my rankings, but I don't want to like leave anybody off of who I like really, really like, because I like a lot of these dudes. I want to start off with Malik Washington from Virginia. From Virginia, he led the FCS with 110 catches. Reminds me a lot of Zay Flowers, undersized guy, 5'8". He's going to be a monster at slot. I don't really know his 40 time. I think it was like a 4.43, something like that. But he's a dog, bro. Like at the slot, I think he's going to come in immediately and affect somebody at the slot. And he's a still 4.47. So based off of speed, right? And just based off of those measurables and numbers and what we've seen the little slot receivers do, he's going to be an animal. Another guy like Xavier, Mr. 421 himself, Xavier Worthy, right? Any other year, again, like we seen what the 40 would do. John Ross was the number 10 pick off of a 40 and fell off the face of the earth. Henry Ruggs off of a 40, you know what I'm saying? Right. Xavier Worthy running a 4.21 is scary, but not only that, he could fall into a back end of the draft and get picked by a team like the Chiefs who need a deep threat. And based off of fit and based off of the things that he could do and speed, he's a scary prospect, and I got to put him up there as an honorable mention. You got Roman Wilson from Michigan. He's an honorable mention of mine. Troy Franklin is an honorable mention of mine. Like guys that can extend and run the 9 route. Adonai Mitchell has an ability that I've never seen from a wide receiver. He has ability to matrix his body and like position his body and contort his body. My comparison to him is George Pickens. And there was a catch George Pickens made against the Steelers where he just, or was it the Steelers against the Browns where he just,
the Browns,
Adonai Mitchell does the same thing, and he can contort and watch and make catches, and it's like he jumps in the air and he's like stuck in the air for an extra minute, and then he comes down, and it's just like, wow, like watching him play is like poetry, right? Like he's a beautiful football player. Like I've heard people say that about Kyrie Irving and his crossover, right?
Yeah.
Like his game, you'll never say Kyrie Irving's the best basketball player, but you say he has the best game that you've ever seen. His game is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's how Adonai Mitchell is. His game is beautiful. The next guy, Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey, watch his film. Just watch, bro. He makes defensive backs look stupid. Like absolutely stupid, right? He has an insane ability too. Of he can position himself. He can run one route with his hips and go one way, catch the ball with the other, and then run the other way. And then he ran a 4.39. My player comp to him is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, Brandon Stokely, and then route running ability of Hunter Renfrow. He's going to be a dangerous slot, and he can play the X and the Y, right? I love Ladd McConkey, and I love Troy Franklin because he can go deep, right? These are just my honorable mentions. These not even my top 5. I just didn't want to leave anybody out just because I just love every receiver in this draft. I also like Leggett from South Carolina. From South Carolina.
He's in my honorable mention.
He reminds me of that old Bears wide receiver that went to South Carolina, and I can't think of his name. He got traded to
what was Alshon Jeffries?
Alshon Jeffrey. He reminds me of Alshon Jeffrey. But I've been talking forever, so go ahead.
I actually was gonna let you talk a little bit more. I got a question about 2 people, two NFL sons.
Yes, sir.
Rice and McCaffrey.
McCaffrey is gonna be like his other brother, Max
Okay.
McCaffrey, who now currently plays in the USFL or UFL.
Okay.
Like, it's just like he's big on the name, but just the production just didn't match it. He's a fast like guy, but I can see him being practice squad special teams guy and a fringe 5th, 6th round pick. And Jerry Rice's son can actually be somebody. I could see him being a good number 4 wide receiver because the measurables are there, the height, the speed, the natural ability. But he's been overshadowed a lot in his USC career, which is the problem. And he played for UNLV too, right?
I thought I remember hearing his names, like he started there and then went to USC.
But when he went to USC, he's been overshadowed by Jordan Addison. He got over that kid from Gorman this year. Cliff Branch's nephew, Xavier Branch or Xavier Branch. So he's just a bigger guy, but those type of guys were taking the top off of the defense.
Yeah.
right? So Jerry Rice's son is more of a bigger body, and he's more of the physical type of guy, but he doesn't have one attribute that like completely stands out to me.
Yeah. True. He's like a jack of all trades, master of nothing.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, I think with Luke McCaffrey, I was looking at it, and I was looking at his production, and I'm like, you never know. He could be one of them dudes that like all they need is the opportunity.
Right. No, for sure.
You get the opportunity, you put him in front of somebody, he can get open. But at the same time, it's like to project, which is what we're pretty much doing. We're projecting based on what they've done so far and how much better they can get. Um, I think Rice does have a better chance of being in the NFL for a longer period of time. But I was curious to see like what you thought. So going into it, um, I'm gonna let you go first because I'm still
Okay. Um, my number 5 is Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman is a guy that he reminds me a lot of T. Higgins. He's a big bodied 6'4" guy, and he has an extremely, extremely tall and high catch radius. Can catch the ball from anywhere. Um, and the thing is, he didn't really wow you with the 40 time, ran a 4.64. But the weird part about him was in the gauntlet drill, he was the fastest receiver in the gauntlet drill. He ran a 19.64 miles per hour in the gauntlet drill. So he's a fast catcher. Boom, 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 boom. Because he has a long catch arm radius, right?
right.
Imagine a 6'4" wide receiver being your team's punt returner. He returned punts. He's a unicorn. Like, he's tall. He's one of those guys where, and this is one of those wide receiver class and drafts where if you have a wide receiver that you have to pay, right? The Bills are about to lose Gabe Davis. You could slide Keon Coleman in that offense. Boy.
Right. Right.
Right. T. Higgins just got the franchise tag, but if you want to trade a T. Higgins, Keon Coleman makes it totally okay to trade him, right? Brandon Ayuk is threatening being traded. Again, he's one of those guys that like he's going to get picked toward the back end, but because of everything that he does, right, where he's fast with the ball in his hands. He may not be fast with the 40, but he's fast with the ball in his hands, and he's a big physical receiver. A lot like Anquan Bolden, right? Anquan Bolden didn't have the best 40 time in the world, but he said Florida State, too, set the world on fire when he got to the league and was damn near rookie of the year. I think Puka Nacua literally just broke his record, his rookie record that stood forever, right?
Yeah.
But Keon Coleman has that ability. So I have him at number 5, but it kind of kicked my behind because I wanted Adonai Mitchell up there, but Keon Coleman took that spot. The next guy I got at number 4 is Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr., I'm going to make this comparison, but this is not who I'm comparing him to. But he's a lot like Justin Jefferson in my mind, because when Justin Jefferson was coming out, we didn't talk a lot about Justin Jefferson because of Jamar Chase, right?
Right.
But then you forgot that the receiver on the other side of Justin Jefferson or on the other side of Jamar Chase was just as lethal, right?
Right.
And that's the problem with Brian Thomas. Like, we know Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is that guy, right?
Yeah.
But Brian Thomas was just as deadly, right? He ran what, a 4.34?
Yeah.
Ran a 4.34. So he's a vertical wide receiver. He's a tall, rangy guy, 6'3", wiry.
Yeah.
Right. So high catch radius, can catch the ball, can catch it from anywhere, can track the ball. And again, like he made help Jaden Daniels, along the way as his deep threat, right? And could take the top off the defense, but then he can also have other aspects of this game where he can go over the middle with the big 6'3" body. And he's not just a 9 route guy, right? Because when you see a lot of these big bodied receivers, they don't want to go over the middle. He'll go over the middle, right? So Brian Thomas, and he's dynamic. So he's my number 4. My number 3, I'm putting his teammate Malik Neighbors there. Malik Neighbors reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs, a lot of Stephon Diggs. Again, catch radius from anywhere, the deep threat. He's a guy that he's a threat. I feel like he's 1,000-yard receiver right away, like
Yeah.
immediately is a 1,000-yard
Yeah.
receiver. Fast, can track the ball, can catch the ball anywhere like a Stephon Diggs, can take it to the house like a Stephon. Like everything about him is deadly and dangerous. Like, I'm just marveling over this wide receiver class. My number 2 is Romeo Odunze. Like Odunze reminds me of Jamar Chase. He's a guy that, again, the Kyrie Irving comparison. His game is just beautiful. I can't just sit there and say one thing that he does well because he does everything well. Polished hands, polished route runner, everything about him. Wouldn't surprise me if he's rookie of the year. Wouldn't surprise me if Malik Neighbors is rookie of the year neither. But I think Romeo Odunze is going to come in day one and be a team's number 1 wide receiver. And again, it's just everything. Like he can catch the ball from any direction. He has the vertical speed to run the 9 route to catch the deep ball. Everything about him. And then obviously number 1 is Marvin Harrison Jr. is my number 1. I don't really think I need to break Marvin Harrison Jr.'s game down that much because everyone's been talking about Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
But my player comp, if I'm just going to compare him to anybody, is AJ Green. So
yeah.
yeah.
I think he can run better routes.
Yeah, he's a much better route runner.
Yeah, I think he's a much better route runner. I ain't gonna cap, bro. I've been telling people about this nigga for 2 years. So, like, I remember before last season, I remember seeing his name and then watching him in 7-on-7 drills. And I was just like, I know this ain't like football, but how tall he is with his ability to run routes. And then, bro, he was killing Ringo before he got hurt. Like, I hate to be that nigga, but like, if he don't get hurt, we beat Georgia. And so, yeah, I could go on and on about Marvin Harrison Jr. But I've been sitting here going back and forth, and I like Brian Thomas, but when I was watching him run routes, I just did. I don't know. I don't like his route running. I think he got to clean up the getting in and out of breaks, which sounds a little hypocritical because of who I'm putting in at 5. But Malachi Corley,
I love Malachi Corley.
I like him a lot. Yak God. I think with him, I think you got a lot. I like where he's at now compared to Brian Thomas. Although I do think that Brian Thomas is bigger. I'm not sure what Malachi's speed is or 40 time is going to be around. Because when I was looking it up, I didn't see one. But just what I've seen on tape, if I had to do a ranking, I know I'm ranking based off the combine, and one person probably wasn't at the combine because I'm not seeing any numbers for him. But if I'm going to go at 5, I'm going to go Malachi Corley, just a little bit over Brian Thomas and Troy Franklin. I love both of them, actually. Troy Franklin killed Colorado. Then after that is when I started paying attention to him. And he's a very good receiver. So that's definitely my honorable mention. At 4, I'm gonna go AD Mitchell, also Adonai Mitchell. I like his size. 6'2", 205, ran a 4.3, 440. Big 12 newcomer. The thing that I like about it, outside of and I know with a lot of he was getting criticized about being a body catcher, but 2 drops in his last 2 seasons, and both of them came in this year.
Yeah.
So I think that like things like that, and he plays out wide, plays some in the slot, but he's majority out wide. So I do think that day one he can come in and be a 1,000-yard receiver, given that he's in the right with the right quarterback, right system. I got Rome Adunze at 3. I think I trust Neighbors a little bit more. And I think the thing with Rome that I was like looking at was like I think too often he can beat his man where he knows he can win the contested. He can catch contested throws that he relies on it too much too often.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Which is why I would rather go the other way. Although I do think that if he can clean that up and get that out the way and just go to work, there's no way why he's not number 2. But
That's where my Jamar Chase comparison came in, because when Jamar Chase came in the league, remember he had that stigma where he couldn't catch the ball because he
yeah,
was stopping and trying to like do all these like acrobatic
Mhm.
stupid catches, and he was just dropping the ball. That was more preseason, but it
Right,
was more
right.
so, yeah. And then yeah,
And so that's why I got um, Malik Neighbors at 2 over Rome, and then my boy Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1. Um, I don't think it's close from what I've seen. To keep it a buck, 6'4". I'm curious to see what his 40 time is too, because watching him on the field, he does look like he can not necessarily take a top off the defense, but you got to respect it, especially with him being 6'4", long, rangy, can high point, but he can break down and run a route. And I think that that's the part, like from his dad being able to break down and run that route while also having that size and stature is it's definitely a marvel and a sight to see.
yeah, for sure. And real quick on your Malachi Corley one, he reminds me a lot of Jaden Reed from the
Yeah,
Packers.
yeah.
And if a team uses him like that, how they use Jaden Reed, yeah, he's lightning.
All right, we got to get to the offensive linemen. We got offensive tackles. Who you going with?
Man, bro.
Who impressed you?
The offensive tackle position, man, like again, and this is not me just saying it during the NFL combine. One of the anonymous GMs, a couple anonymous GMs said this is the best offensive line group of all time that they've ever scouted. And it goes back to athleticism, number one, and number two, um, guys that used to play tight ends, guys who used to play like wide receivers, being guys who used to play defensive end, being converted and being long and fast and just um, so my number 5 offensive tackle is Amaris Mims from Georgia. Um, right tackle. He's a stalwart at right tackle. Mammoth guy, 6'8". Let me run down his measurements really quick. But he's 6'8". He reminds me a lot of Trent Brown.
Yeah,
When former Raider, current Patriot. He's a guy that Trent Brown had more position flexibility, left tackle, right tackle. I think Mims is just a right tackle. Um, but he's one of those guys, 6'8", 340 pounds. He's the guy that you take off the bus first and be like, we're here, right?
yeah,
Um, my perfect fit for him would be the Bengals, because he's a guy that he's gonna protect Joe Burrow's blind side for the rest of his life, right? Young kid, 20 years old, and like I said, he's a mammoth pass blocker. Um, he's explosive, high energy, great athlete. Uh, these are the notes that I kind of wrote down. Hinge flexibility. Um, he uses a 6'8". He has leverage, great leverage. He can bend and break down, and he's willing to take on all comers and all challenges. And that's something that from my offensive lineman that I want, somebody that doesn't back down from a challenge. Um, my number 4 guy, um, I have this written down. Let me see. Let me see here. Let me and then I didn't mention my honorable mention was Troy Fatanu from Washington.
Yeah.
And it's all the reasons why I said why I like Mims. But this is my favorite offensive lineman in the entire draft. He's my number 4, and the only reason I'm not gonna do that right now because he's my favorite offensive lineman in the draft, so I can't have him 4. J.C. Latham is number 4. I kind of ordered this because I ordered this pre combine, so
Okay.
I'm gonna reorder this now. J.C. Latham from Alabama. He's a guy that again offers you flexibility. He's a Alabama product. So you think of all the Alabama linemen, the Jonah Williams, you keep naming them. He falls under that mode, right? Big guy. He's a right tackle. So there's a lot of right tackles in this draft. A lot of right tackles. Again, with J.C. Latham, big guy, possesses the prototypical NFL size. He's giant, 6'6", he's 350. Consistent ability. He's dominant at the line of scrimmage. Quickness in pass sets. He employs he's leveraged this strong anchor. He fits best in the zone run scheme. So if you're a zone blocking team, he fits admirably in a zone blocking scheme. He's a mauler run blocker. Where Amarius Mims, the reason why he's number 5, I don't really like him too much as a run blocker because the 6'8", he doesn't really bend, where J.C. Latham bends and knocks your ass over and he'll pancake you. He may lead the league in pancakes one day because, he doesn't shy away from the physicality. My number 3, he's the best offensive line prospect for me that I've seen personally since Penei Sewell. Talise Funaga from Oregon State. He's my favorite offensive lineman in this entire draft. My comparison to him is Penei Sewell, but it's not Penei Sewell because Penei Sewell is a lot quicker, but he's going to bring the attitude that Penei Sewell brought. Like, when the Lions drafted Penei Sewell, I knew the Lions' days of being bad were going to come to an end soon because with him, you have the confidence that you can do anything. Right? Like, I could draft a running back high and be a run football team because I have Penei Sewell on my offensive line. Or, I could draft a speedy wide receiver in Jamison Williams and he's going to make enough time to protect my quarterback because I have a Penei Sewell. Talise Funaga is the same way. I feel like you could do anything in the world with him at your right tackle. And I feel like if you have a team like that already has a strong left tackle with a questionable right tackle, like the Raiders, like Colton Miller, who's on the right side. If you put this dude on the right side, you have a bookend, a left tackle, right tackle bookend for the rest of your life and the rest of your career, right? And your young quarterback is going to feel in good hands. Run game dominance. He's going to knock you on your ass, like run game. He can control the line of scrimmage. Strong, has a big physical frame, heavy hands. Impactful, explosive range. So as a pulling right tackle, he's going to pull you and he's going to lead you to the promised land. Boom, knock you square. He's aggressive. He has great pad level, great superior leverage, knee bend, redirection, all that, hip flexibility, everything that you want from your right tackle, he has. He's my favorite offensive lineman in the draft. However, I kind of with the first 2, I kind of went more textbookish, and the guys that are, who everybody else has been kind of saying as, the Joe Alts and the guy from Penn State, and I'm calling the guy from Penn State because I can't really say his name too well.
Yeah, I'm not even going to sit here and try to obliterate that man.
I don't want to
name like that.
But Olawanu Fashanu, he's my second. I got him going to the Jets, or and just simply he's a smart he's an athletic freak and he's smart, very very smart. He has an ideal weight, ideal height, natural athleticism in both pass protection, can run the ball, run block, great hand strength, great run blocker, short area athleticism, just everything. Just everything about him. He's a franchise left tackle. Could be he could be an all pro for years and years to come. And my number one is Joe Alt for the same reason. If I'm reading his profile, I got the same thing written down for Joe Alt. But Joe Alt is the most athletic of the bunch. He was a former tight end. He's a guy that played tight end. And you know that he played tight end because he's fast and he's quick. Right. And he's a guy that if you put him in a situation to guard Myles Garrett, you put him in there to guard Max Crosby, he's going to take that challenge. He's going to win with that challenge every single day. I love him. Like, I could see Joe Thomas. I could see a Joe Thomas comparison.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the guys that I named.
All right. And then interior linemen. Who are your guys?
So number one, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. Love him. Best center in the draft. He's the best center I've seen since Tyler Lindenbaum from the Ravens. Smart, instinctual. Mahler can do everything. Same thing with the next center, Zach Frazier on the inside from West Virginia. Same thing, second best center in the draft. And then my guard, I think the best guard in the draft is from let me look. Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. A mauler. He's a mauler. Physical, strong, dominant hands, can pull. His strength is run blocking. What else can I say about Cooper Beebe? Strong grip. Shows great in pass protection, resilient hands. He's a mauler. My player comparison was somebody that got drafted last year, the top guard from last year, Cyrus Torres from Florida. It's my player comparison to him. But yeah, those are some of my guys. Got two centers and a guard. But Cooper Beebe is a guy that probably going to third round, fourth round, but he's going to be a steal.
Okay. Yeah, I feel terrible because I was not able to do my due diligence and get to these linemen like I would have liked to. So I don't really have much to give on this one. Next time around, I'll be ready for it. But we got edge rushers.
Man.
And this, when I really didn't like know that it would be this deep going into it. I was really impressed with Chop and his 40. And then actually going into it, it was talks about him not really being able, not having enough bricks in his britches, I guess you could say. But he came in 6'3", 254. And so to put that with that type of that 40 time explosive athlete, he'll be able to rush the passer, but this is the thing about it is like there's questions of him being able to hold up against the run. And so when you watch the combine, it's like, all right, you showed that you are the ability to get after the quarterback. I can see why it would be there, just you being that fast. But people got to hold up on these whole Michael Parsons comparisons. Yeah, that's definitely a whole nother level of edge rusher and just all around football player. But I like Chop. I think Jared Verse, what he was able to do in his combine was very impressive. And so Dallas Turner did his thing too.
Yeah, he did.
And so I'm looking forward to this one because I want to see who's your 5.
Okay. My number 5, Braylon Trice, from Washington. He's a guy that he's grown on me a lot. Again, he's a big physical guy, violent hands. He can get after the quarterback. He has line flexibility, and that's one thing that I like. You can slide him in, you can slide him out, and he's effective in both directions, in both ways. Another guy too. I'm gonna put him in my honorable mention, but I don't want to put because we're gonna be talking about defensive tackle, so I kind of have him pegged as a defensive tackle, so I'm not gonna go there yet. But just more on Braylon Trice. 6'4" guy, great wingspan, impressive size. He's strong at the point of attack. Converts speed to power very easily. He excels in block destruction, so he doesn't really have a special move, but he's a bull rusher. Where the rest of these guys, if you kind of look at the draft, I got Braylon Trice as the best bull rusher, but if you look at the rest of these guys, they're going to attack you with speed, right? By looking at Chop. Number 4 is Chop. You mentioned Chop. Love the name Chop because he uses his hand and he chops, right?
Right.
Get that hand down. The Micah Parsons things that's a nah. That's dead it. Not Micah Parsons. I kind of compare him to his old teammate Jason Adofwe from the Ravens. Very very fast, 4.49, good edge rusher, can set the edge. And he can see and he's not just a pass rusher. He can also stop the run. So he does have some flexibility to slide him in and out. My next guy that I have is Jared Verse. You mentioned, love Jared Verse. I'm kind of struggling with my 1 and 2. I'm gonna go with my favorite player at number 1, but number 2 is Dallas Turner. Love Dallas Turner. He's quick around the edge. He's fast. Fast. He's an edge rusher. He has flexibility. You can put him at linebacker. You can put his hand in the dirt. He can cover. But he's really most effective with his hand in the dirt and going after the quarterback and rushing the passer. This is my favorite defensive player in the entire draft. Number 1, Latu from UCLA. Guy's a monster. He's been working out with Max Crosby, and those two, like Latu, I don't care where he goes. He's my defensive player of the year. I don't care where he goes. He's a solid pass rusher. My player comp was Sean Merriman. But I can also see Jalen Phillips. Just a relentless pass rusher. You can't teach motor and you can't teach want to. Right. And he has a motor and he has want to. He wants to get after the quarterback and he wants to make it a horrible day for your quarterback. He fits into any team that already has an effective pass rusher.
Right.
You put in them two, whoever, like Vikings with Daniil Hunter. If you keep him, you put him on the other side of Daniil Hunter, monster, right?
Right.
Fast, physical. He's just the prototypical pass rusher, man. And he's the modern day pass rusher. So I love the guy. Latu's my number 1.
I don't think that there's I can see where you're coming from. Now I got Dallas at 1, but with Latu, like I've seen the ability when used not only as the pass rusher, but then watching them turn around and try to cover space. I can definitely say I think in that aspect, I feel like he's a little better than Dallas when it comes to that. Just the smoothness, during being in coverage. But I just feel like I don't know. I feel like Dallas is more prep. I feel like he's just better at this point in their careers. So I really going into this, I had Darius Robinson at 5.
Me too.
And then his combine was trash.
That's why I moved him down.
So, going into it, I had Darius Robinson at 5, but he's definitely, if I had to say someone slid, my man slid. And so, for all the reasons that you mentioned, I have Braylon Trice at 5. I'm gonna go Chop at 4, just because I think Verse is better on both sides as we speak. Um, where I'm trying to think, where was his 40 time? Shoot, I've even seen some boards where they got him as the number one. Somebody thinks he's the number one.
Who?
Jared Verse.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's more familiarity too because he's been projected that forever,
Right?
And he didn't disappoint at all. Yeah,
And so he had 31 reps on the bench press, and then ran a 4.8, a 4.58. Sorry, that 4.8 ain't that fast, but a 4.58. And then in his 10 split, ran a 1.6. And so I think that he's definitely got the strength to set the edge. Got a hell of a bull rush. Being able, but he also has the quickness to be able to stop the run and the strength to hold up and then stop the run and make plays. So for me, that's why I got him over Chop, because I just think he's better in the run than Chop is currently. But that's explosiveness that Chop displayed as just an all around athlete at the combine is not something to be sneezed at. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chop went higher. And then for all the reasons that you mentioned before, I got Latu at 2, and then Dallas Turner at 1. And then this is another one. I can mention some names, but I don't really have a list yet. At the defensive linemen, defensive tackles, I know some people may be like, "Oh, you talked about edge rushers." These linemen are either playing in outside in that 4-3 or they're interior defensive linemen. And so, who are some people that impressed you?
I got a funny text. Sorry, I'll tell you off air, bro. This is hilarious. Anyway, Braden Fisk. Somebody that really stood out to me at the combine was Braden Fisk. Ran a 4.78. Yeah. Big human guy running a 4.78. Yeah. That's insane.
And he hit you with Kool-Aid man on the way at the end of his 40.
Yeah, that's insane, bro. Like the fact that he ran a 4.78. I just wanted to acknowledge that he ran a 4.78. My number 5 is T'Vondre Sweat. And T'Vondre Sweat, he's not really a pass rusher, but he's big at stopping the run. He reminds me a lot of Snacks Harrison from the former Giants guy. Yeah. He's gonna plug up the middle. That's what he's there for. Big solid guy. That's just gonna swallow up the middle and not gonna allow you to. You're gonna have a difficult run day if he's on the defensive line. Number 4, Chris Jenkins, and that was the guy I was struggling with Trice because I don't know if he's a defensive end or a defensive lineman. But Chris Jenkins, I love lineage kids, right? Chris Jenkins' father played for the Carolina Panthers during the Super Bowl days, played next to Julius Peppers. And he exhibits a lot of his dad's traits. And I think one thing with lineage kids is traits passed down. And it's hard for me to sit up there and say that, like, lineage kids. I know we talked about Jerry Rice and McCaffrey earlier, but on the defensive side of the ball, it's hard for me to be like think of a lineage kid that was bad, right? Yeah. And Chris Jenkins is not. He has his father's special, pass rushing abilities, and he can also stop the run. So he's one of those guys that's going to give you edge flexibility and middle flexibility. And in the defensive line, that's all you can ask for, and you love that. So he's my number 4. Number 3, you know what? No. Okay, so I'll put Braden Fisk at 5. I could do that. T'Vondre Sweat at number 4. Chris Jenkins at number 3. Jerzon Newton. He was a guy that was my number 1 until I seen Byron Murphy. But
Yeah.
I want to talk about Drazon Newton really quick. He has the exact same measurables as Jalen Carter. The exact. The one thing that it just he just didn't go to Alabama. That was, or he didn't go to Georgia, and that was his only problem, right? But versatility, shifty, explosive, get off, heavy, impactful hands, exceptional leverage, strong point of attack. He's an athlete for a guy that's 300 pounds. It's insane how much of an athlete he is. Kind of reminds me of I was kind of nearing Kalijah Kancey from last year. Because he's short, but he's fat, but he's like, short arms. But again, he's a three technique. Can play in the interior, and he's gonna wreak havoc. You could put him on the inside, outside. I love Newton. Like I said, if he goes to Georgia, if he goes to Bama, you're talking about him a lot more. But the fact that he went to Illinois, it kind of, but now number one is Byron Murphy. Do run a 4.88. But not only did he run a 4.88, he's explosive, and you see the 4.88, right?
Right.
He's a stalwart, right? Like, he's one of those guys that if you put him on a team with an edge rusher that's going to get double teamed, right? He's going to take a lot of those double teams, and he's going to single up your edge rusher, and he's going to take a lot of pressure up the middle, and he's going to be a guy that you're going to have to double team as well and take a lot of your pressure up. And he's going to have that, to me, Jalen Carter impact, right? He's quick, and he can get after the passer. He's dynamic. Let me read my notes really quick of what I said about him. Explosive first step, exceptional leverage, core strength, agile, has a never-ending motor, sharp football IQ, blend of athleticism with technique, and his sack numbers aren't elite, but he'll pressure the quarterback. And like I said, he'll free up your best defensive end. So what more can you want? So definitely Byron Murphy, he's a beast.
I seen a mock draft where we were taking him. You think that's a good fit?
Love it. I want him. If we don't get a quarterback, I want him, or I want the right tackle from Oregon State.
Okay. And then, you pretty much mentioned everybody that I would have mentioned. The people I had my eyes on. I definitely thought Byron Murphy was that dude. That was definitely my number one. I was really impressed with Fisk and how he ran. But next up we got these linebackers and safeties.
So I didn't really have a ranking system for the linebackers, nor did I have a ranking system for the safeties. But to me, there's been a lot of speculation of who the number one linebacker is. People have been talking about Edgerrin Cooper. He's not my top linebacker by any means, but I do like Edgerrin Cooper. To talk about Edgerrin Cooper for a second, again, he's an instinctual linebacker, can cover extremely well, can cover ground. He offers flexibility within the run and within the pass. He completely fits the modern day linebacker. Elite athleticism, exceptional burst, quick recognition of gaps, effective hands. He even shows promise as a pass rusher. He plays in the will. Could play the will linebacker. He's a lot of people's number one linebacker. My number one linebacker, again, probably second favorite defensive player in this draft is Peyton Wilson. I love Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson is the closest thing to Luke Kuechly I've ever seen. That's my comparison. If he doesn't turn out to be Luke Kuechly, I'll eat my words, but I feel like he's going to be Luke Kuechly. He ran a 4.4, which is insane. Completely fast. I didn't think he was that fast. I didn't know he was that fast because I've been raving about him forever. Because I'm one of his biggest fans, but I didn't think he could run 4.4. But the thing that I like about him, he was a high school wrestler, so he was I think he was an all-state wrestler if I'm not mistaken. So the fact that he's a wrestler, he has the aggressive hands, and he can rip through and instinctual can cover. So with 4.4 speed, he's covering these elite tight ends. He could shoot the gap on blitzes. The biggest problem of why he isn't, I would say that of why he's not going to be highly drafted, he'll probably go second round, early mid-second round, injuries. So I'm going to make this comparison, but this is not who I'm comparing him to. A lot like Denzel Perryman and a lot like Leighton Vander Esch. Two guys who, when they play, they're game changers. They're game wreckers, right? Pro bowlers, all pros. But the problem is they're injured so much that they barely ever play. Sean Lee, right? Barely ever play. But when they do play, you're gonna feel their presence, and he's gonna make a play in the game that is gonna change the outcome of the game because he's that instinctual and he's that good. But to me, his ceiling, the high ceiling of him, for me, like I said, was Luke Kuechly. A low bottom tier ceiling probably is Sean Lee, the former Cowboy linebacker. But he's amazing. Favorite guy. The next other linebacker I like was Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Again, lineage kid. I love lineage guys whose fathers played in the league. He exhibited a lot of his father's traits: leadership, can cover ground, can run, can do anything that you want your prototypical linebacker to do. And Smart. Again, his dad played in the league. And he gets a lot of his intelligence and his instincts from his dad. He's a guy I like a lot. And I like Junior Colson, too, from Michigan. But, so those are my linebackers.
Yeah, you pretty much mentioned everybody I would have mentioned. I really like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Like you said, NFL lineage. His dad was no slouch, and so I've seen a lot of that in him. And so, you got any safeties?
Yes, I do. I do. My phone froze. Let me see. Let me see if I can get to my notes. It locked me out of my notes. That's why I've been kind of like struggling a little bit. Okay, safety. I do have a safety. I do have a few safeties.
While I pull up these cornerbacks,
Tyler Nubin, from Minnesota, safety I like. Tyler Nubin reminds me a lot. You could kind of say Marcus Williams from the Baltimore Ravens, but again, he's a guy that has great size, 6'1", 205, can cover a lot of ground. And Minnesota, they quietly have been a good, trustable, dependable safety safety school. They had Antoine Winfield Jr. And he has a lot of those Antoine Winfield Jr. traits. He can cover extremely well. He's an exceptional blitzer. You could put him in the box, out of the box, but he's really going to make his money in coverage. He's a solid coverage safety. Like Tyler Nubin a lot. The next guy that I want to talk about is Javon Bullard from Georgia. He's another guy that I'm really high on, that I like a lot. Javon Bullard. What did I write in my notes for him? He's instinctive, adept at reading routes. Zone. He could play zone. He's aware of zone. Has nice blend of length, speed, and quickness. Can get his head around. Has great timing. Can get up under a receiver's chin and lay a good hit. That's what I noticed about him, and has good change of ability with the hips and flexes his hips. But those are my top two safeties. But I do like Tyler Nubin an awful lot. I do want to, now that my phone's back up and running, I do kind of want to talk about him a little bit. Good frame, fluid movement, great cognitive skills, can read a defense. I did compare him to Antoine Winfield. I said Marcus Williams, but I did actually compare him to Antoine Winfield. Possesses swagger. He's confident. High energy. He's an enforcer. He has that dog in him. Box safety. He's box safety and can hit. So, yep. So those are my top two safeties that I like, and I also like Kitchens. Cameron Kitchens from Miami.
Okay. All right, so then we got corners. We got them corners. And this is another deep class. First off, shout out to the white corner. He holding it down. Shout out to was it Cooper DeJean?
Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
My dude. Love him.
Which I feel like he gonna do something because I feel like Iowa just creates. They just pump out good football players, quality football players.
They do.
So I don't have him in my 5, but great honorable mention. And so, because I got a solid 4. It's this 5th spot that I'm struggling with.
I got a ton of honorable mentions. A ton.
I'll let you get yours off, so we're not leaving anybody out.
Okay. My first honorable mention is TJ Tampa from Iowa State. 6'2", long arms, physical, impressive size, fluid hip movement, excellent position, great hand usage, big physical presence. Former high school, what was it? Oh, he's a two-way player in high school, so played basketball. He has an ability to diagnose plays and react, and she's a strong open field tackler. And he fits more of that Seattle type of defense where they like taller, bigger corners. He fits that. Kwamari Lassiter from Georgia, another guy that's in my honorable mention. Again, height, good solid height, 6 foot. Fluid athlete. He impressive vertical route coverage. He's a reliable tackler. He's effective in zone coverage. I don't really like him too much in man-to-man. Liked him in zone. Strong, aggressive, physical. Sharp. He's sharp and he's instinctive. Again, another reliable tackler. He comes from that Georgia school of dog tight ends, or not tight ends, dog defensive backs and dog corners. So I like that. And then I had Enos Rakestraw as an honorable mention. He's probably be in your top 5 because he's in a lot of people's top 5. 5'11" corner. I have him as a nickel, and a lot of people have him as an outside corner. But he's instinctual. He's superior in man coverage. That's why I like him in nickel. He has definitely he's a football IQ. Can play both man and zone. So he has scheme flexibility, which a lot of these corners in this draft don't, but he has man and zone flexibility. He's a lighter frame. The problem that I have is he's a little bit slower in the 40. He's light, and his zone coverage skills are underdeveloped a little bit, but he can play both. He's a better man than zone corner.
Right.
And yeah, that's why he falls out of the top 5. But
yeah, his 40 time is why he's out my 5.
Did I help you? Or did
you I got with my boy Kalen Carson is my 5 out of Wake Forest. Good size, 6 foot, 200. Good in press, cover 2. Gives a little bit too much ground when it comes to playing off man. But I do think that everything else is good enough to where I would put him at 5 for me. And so this is where I think he got the coolest name in football.
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid is my 4. Uh, as I pull up everything. And one thing I did realize with a lot in this draft was I felt like last year there was a lot of nickel. It was like almost every
Oh, that
corner.
was a nickel draft all
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
I've never looked at a draft so much. But like, all right, so this nickel. But it's like the top 2 was out wide, and that's it. Everybody else was nickel. And so that was one thing I did like about the draft. This draft is that it's top, like everybody's out wide.
Yeah.
And so, smart football player. I do think that he'll be able to come in day one and be able to contribute. Not saying he's gonna come in and be a lockdown. I seen NFL.com got him compared to AJ Terrell, which I could see a little bit. Now I wouldn't go like too close to it, but I guess I can see. I don't really have a player comp for him yet, but I do think day one being able to come in and contribute, smart football player. Nick Saban is a defensive back guru, I guess you can say. And so him coming from that lineage, I would expect him to come in day one and be able to contribute.
And he's a good kick returner, right? And he's a good returner, kick and punt returner. So he's reliable in special teams, right? So he's a problem on third down because he could cover you, and then he's a problem on fourth down because you got to punt to him. So I agree with Kool-Aid. I like Kool-Aid.
But who you got next? Well, who you
got? I got Tarrian Arnold.
Okay.
On there. Tarrian Arnold is a guy that, because I agree with your Kool-Aid assessment. I have Kool-Aid on as my number 4 as well. Kool-Aid is my number. Tarrian Arnold is my number 3.
Yeah.
Impressive frame. He's what was he? What is his measurable? He's 6 foot.
Yeah.
Ideal height, solid build, confident, technical in man coverage, physical. He's patient. He's aggressive. Has great footwork. He can mirror receivers, fluid hips. Can make the downhill plays. Consistent heavy hitter. Wraps up well. He could play safety. I could play safety. And he showed improvement in his zone coverage because he was kind of awful in his zone coverage, but he showed improvement in his zone coverage. The one thing that kind of bothers me about both of the Bama quarterbacks are the Texas game, because they were just abused in the Texas game.
Yeah.
I wrote that down in the negative section with the Texas game, but we all got bad games, so I can't really be too much of a stiffler on that.
Right.
Yeah.
I got him at 3. This is the one for me. I got Nate Wiggins at 2.
I got Nate Wiggins at 3.
Yeah, I got Nate Wiggins at 2. So my 5 was Carson, 4 was Kool-Aid. I agree with your Tarrian at your. I agree with Tarrian being on the list, but he's at 3 for me. I got Nate at 2, and then Quinion Mitchell at 1.
He's my number 2, Kyng Mitchell.
Yeah. I like Quinion Mitchell. I just think he's just solid all around. Step in day one, be your corner. You're a starter at corner. I love everything about his game. Nate Wiggins. Never really heard of him until I seen the 40 time, because I wasn't really watching Clemson like that, to keep it a buck. But yeah, that 40 time is where he popped on the screen for me.
He was my number 2 quarterback. He was my number 2 quarterback all year, Nate. But then after I seen Kenyon's my number 2. Kenyon, again, if he goes to Alabama or Georgia, he's the best cornerback in this draft. He's locked down. And it's just the fact that he was a MAC. He went to MAC, And there's a reason why we can't look down on MAC players because Khalil Mack was a MAC player. Ben Roethlisberger was a MAC player. So it's like he only allowed 22 completions in his career. Shut down, lockdown. Impressed at the Senior Bowl. Tenacity. His ball skills are amazing. Elite. Versatile. He has linear quickness. He's a shutdown cornerback. Like I can't really say anything more, but he's a shutdown cornerback. Like he's gonna come down and lock you up. He has a swagger to know that he's gonna lock you up, right? Just exceptional field vision, zone coverage, adept, man to man. Has great route recognition. Love him. But of course, my number one is the white guy, bro. Cooper DeJean's my number one, and he's been my number one all year. He's been my
number one for real.
Yes.
Oh shit! I did not. Yes. I did not expect that.
Bro, best zone corner I've ever seen. Yeah, he's my number one. I think I was struggling with switching him and Kenyon only because he's injured and his leg, but without injury, man. I hate to be racist because I understand the other day I said like comparisons are racist, but Jason Sehorn. Man, that's what I got. That's what I got. But I'm gonna just run it down. He's an elite athlete. He's a freak of nature. He played quarterback at high school. 100-meter dash champion, ran an 11-1 in the 100-meter dash. Rare mass frame, great initial burst. He's fleet-footed, can track the ball. He was a dynamic punt returner. Extremely natural in the zone. The best zone corner I've ever the best college zone corner I've probably ever seen. Disciplined, great technique, great size. He could play slot. He could play boundary. He could play free safety. He could play everywhere. Like you said, Iowa produces smart players. He could literally play everywhere.
Yeah, he's a high IQ football player if you come out of Iowa.
I don't want to, again, not to be stereotypical, but Eric Weddle, right? Eric Weddle played everywhere. He could be an Eric Weddle. He could play everywhere. I could put him in nickel. I could put him in corner. He has the most flexibility of any cornerback in this draft, and that's why I have him so high because he's flexible. I could put him anywhere. He's a jackrabbit, right? That's what I put in my notes. Jackrabbit. Put him anywhere. Discipline size. Fast twitched. Put Jason Sehorn in my notes. What else did I say? He's not the most fluid, but he's athletic, ability to adapt to various defensive schemes and roles, can play special teams, can return punts. You're going to get your money's worth with him. Yeah, I think he's I think intellectually, IQ-wise, he's the smartest. To me, him and Peyton Wilson are the two smartest players in the draft to me, of just being able to do whatever I want them to do in my scheme. So I don't think he's scheme dependent at all. I think a lot of these guys in this draft, you're either a zone, you're either a man-to-man, or you're whatever. He's zone, he's man-to-man, he's whatever, but he's best in zone. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. I agree. I think that he's going to be a good one. I just think that some of the other guys were a little better, in my personal opinion. But, hey, we all got our different projections, our own, what we see on the field, what we think will happen. I'm curious to see, like, as time goes on, I want to see the whether or not what the Bears do with that pick is going to have a trickle-down effect. Who's going to move up? Eventually, I'll do a mock draft where those things will be accounted for. But right now, we're just strictly breaking down these players. We got a good almost 2 hours out of this, so I feel like we did what we were supposed to do. I'll probably break it down because the quarterback one, that can be its own segment, all on its own. But Was there anything else you want to say as far as the combine before we get up out of here?
Nah. I think I just want to just talk about how special this draft is, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's a unicorn draft. Like, you're gonna get your money's worth at quarterback. You're gonna get your money's worth at wide receiver. You're gonna get your money's worth at edge rusher. You're gonna get your money's worth at defensive back. It's one of those drafts where you don't like a lot of times with the NFL draft, you don't want to watch all 7 rounds because it's like it's boring. You're gonna fall asleep a lot of times. But this is one of them drafts where you really want to watch all 7 rounds, just because if we don't have running backs going to the 3rd round, that should tell you like how deep everything else is, right? We're talking about a premier position, so it's a deep draft, man. Like, it's exciting, and I haven't seen an NFL draft this talent stacked in a while. So it's gonna be
because it's legit 7 edge rushers that I probably could have named and that had a name for the top 5. Quarterback is one of those ones. It's 6 deep. Cornerback
wide receiver is like 45 deep, bro. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say the wide receiver alone could be 2 rounds deep of all quality wide receivers. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to when I get to the point where I start watching film, because that's the part for me that really made like one of my favorite points of doing this podcast thing is really sitting down and watching the film. Sometimes I'll be like, man, I forgot who I was watching. Chase Daniels. I'll be watching his breakdown of quarterbacks, and so specifically when he was talking about Justin, I was like, man, I want to get where he get his film at. Because it'd be like,
for me, it's Kirk Benkert. Like,
it's like some of their, like the way that the film that they get, it's like, where did you get this film at? And like the angle, and then like it's like the perfect angle to be able to break down what I'm supposed to be breaking down. It's like sometimes I'm sitting there watching people's clips, and it's like, bro, this is not made for me to be breaking down how this person is running this route, or how this person is taking pressure, or how this person is coming off. And it's like, but it is what it is. But I still love it. It's one of my favorite points.
Benkert, he compared Drake May like came at him on Twitter because he compared him to the most trashiest nigga I've. It was Blake. I don't remember who it was. I think he said Blake Bortles. I don't remember who it was. No. I don't even think it was Blake Bortles. It was somebody worse than Blake Bortles. It was a quarterback that was like a 3rd or 4th stringer. You gotta. Oh my god, Drake May was.
I'd be pissed.
It was offensive. How
what
bad
if he was like? What was old boy that played for the Jaguars?
Was he white? David Garrard?
It was the white dude that went all over the league, because he was at the Jaguars and he went to the 49ers, Cardinals too.
Oh, Josh Rosen? No.
Not Josh Rosen. I can't think of buddy's name. I just remember when he played with the 49ers, he actually wasn't that bad, but with the other 2 teams, he was trash.
Yeah, no. Kirk Benkert, I was like, damn.
Yeah, bro. You compare me to Blake Bortles, now we gotta fight.
I don't know particularly if it was Blake Bortles.
And what if it was like
somebody that was like, I was like, damn, this is the worst player comparison I've ever seen. And it was like one of them things I was like, damn, yeah, if you ever see me in public, we gotta knuckle up. Because you don't want to see my family make it out, bro. That's crazy.
But make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff on all those socials that have been running on the bottom of the screen. Like the He Say She Say channel on Facebook, J.U.K Media on YouTube, J.U.K Sports Show on Instagram, and then follow me at KYNGRALPH on everything. Add an underscore for Twitter or X. And we got to get up out of here. This is another year of excitement as a Raider fan to see what direction we go in. I always try to trickle in some people who I think we should pick into it. So, but thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. We got more shit coming. And peace out.